You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Kelly, and we've got Candice Ramsay back in the studio today. We've chatted to her a few months ago, might even be years ago, and we're chatting about mobile clinics. So it's awesome to have Candice here. She has a practice called Ramsay Rehabilitation in Rivonia, and she's actually made the move now into having a brick and mortar practice. So I'm really excited to chat to her about the changes that's happened in her practice and in her life. Welcome, Candice.
Hi, Megan. It's so nice to be back again.
Wow, Candice, so there's so much has happened since we last chatted. Do you want to fill everyone in? Because I'm sure loads of our listeners have probably listened to that mobile clinics podcast that we did. So fill everyone in there as to how things have changed in your world.
Wow, things have changed so much. I actually I pinch myself every day because I'm so excited about it. I had a mobile clinic for some time where I would visit vets, visit clients' houses, and one day I decided that it wasn't for me. It didn't suit me, and I don't want to sound ungrateful when I say that, but Johannesburg traffic got to me, and I decided to make the decision to actually have a practice and have my clients come to me. And it's been an amazing move, and I don't regret it one bit. As much as I loved my days of traveling, being in one spot has made me a better therapist, a better person in general, and I manage my time so much better. So although it is possible to be mobile, for me personally, being in one spot is great. It's a huge achievement.
I think it also just allows you just to focus, doesn't it? Because when you're driving around, going everywhere, you're just juggling all the time. So here you can actually sit down and you go to work and actually just focus on your cases and what's happening in one location. I agree with you. I did both too. And I also, eventually made that move to be in one place. So I completely understand. And tell me, are there any things that you miss about the mobile clinic?
Yes, there are a few things. I limited my client base quite a bit because I could only see a maximum of about 5 clients a day, maybe 6 or 7 if I pushed it, if they were in the same area. And that means that I had a lot more time to process every client and everything, and prepping between clients. You had that time to travel from one client to another. So in getting in the car, I could process what I have done, and then I had like 20 minutes to think about what I would do next time and how I would face the next client, and then I would arrive. So I had a bit more breathing space, if that makes sense. Whereas now I have to actually schedule at least 10 minutes between each client to catch my breath, write my patient report, and go on to the next one. So I often feel more overwhelmed now if I have a very busy day, and that's because I don't limit my time as much as I used to, because now I can fit in many more patients, but I have to make a conscious effort to make sure that I use my time wisely, whereas the driving kind of forced me to use my time wisely.
Yeah, I mean,
there's also something personal that I miss, and that's I had a few stop-ins. So if I around lunchtime, I would probably stop at my mom's house, and yeah, like picking up my dog or visiting a friend. I could definitely fit those in because I was in all different areas. Whereas now it's up to my friends to come and pop in at me.
Yeah, I must say when practices get busy and you're just seeing one consult after another, sometimes at the end of the day, they just all seem like one big consult. So I recall sort of having that time, just to think about your cases. So things are a lot busier when you're in practice, and you also obviously have the overheads to cover. So you can't say, well, I'm going to have like a 20-minute break between each consult. You have to actually start filling up your consults to pay for the overheads. the rental. Let's chat a little bit about your actual clinic now. So how did you find the location where you're at, and are you renting or did you buy?
So I have quite a nice setup here actually, and I feel like it all came to me. While I was driving around, one of my biggest referring vets, I used to pop in at them quite a bit, just to upkeep the relationship and to see patients and things. And I'm a person who like, I'm always looking for like the next best thing, so I would always like suss out where I was. And this practice specifically had a big backyard that was only being used on a Saturday for puppy school. So and there was nothing, it was just grass, and there was nothing here, and I just saw such value in it, and I kept it to myself for a long time and thought, well, what am I going to do with a big piece of land? And one day I was driving around Joburg, and the traffic was crazy, and I felt so overwhelmed that I actually just put in a phone call to the practice owner and said, do you have space for me? Is there space for me somewhere in your practice? And she said, for you, Candice, we'll make a plan. So I had meetings with the owner of the practice, and we discussed a few options of me being in hospital. But one thing that and it's a piece of advice, I know I'm very early in my career to give advice, but something that I want to say to people is, if you have an idea in your head and you believe in it, stick with it. So I had this idea that I did not want to be in a veterinary practice, because I believe that the smell of the vet, the anxiety of the vet, and all those things contribute to the dog being stressed and anxious during rehab. And so I didn't want to be in the vet practice. So I suggested using the backyard, and she said, well, come up with a plan. So the plan that I came up with was actually a shipping container, and I got some advice from a fellow rehab practitioner that had actually done it before me. And I chatted to her and I said, how did you go about it? And she gave me great advice, and I'm so grateful for that. Anyway, needless to say, I bought a shipping container, and I saw it like as it had come off the ship, and it was not painted, not pretty, really, really not nice. And I was like, oh, how are we going to turn this into a rehab center? And well, they converted it into a little practice and delivered it on the back of a truck. And it's in the backyard of the vet, and we made a separate entrance, and we made separate parking, and we planted grass, and now it's like a little piece of heaven, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, and such a clever idea. It really is. I mean, because obviously the cost of building a purpose-built practice, initially when you're first starting out, that's a massive, massive overlay. So here is a way in which to actually start small. And I believe with these containers that you can actually add on. So you can add another one on right next to it, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that this unit, okay, so it was completely renovated. The way I did it was I actually saved for this. I didn't take a loan. I decided, I knew I was going to build or not be mobile forever. So I had been keeping, I'd been saving for a long time. I just didn't know where I was going to put it or how I was going to use it, but I knew that I would. And so it turned out to be quite expensive in the end, but we have running water, we have electricity, and they're all on prepaid meters, as well as a grey water system. So we reuse the water that comes out of we recycle the water as well, which is great. Yeah, and it's all separate, so it's all connected. It's like a little house. You could live in here.
Yeah, so you've got one container now, right?
Yes.
And what is the square meterage of that container?
So it's a 6 meter by 3 meters. Yeah, 6 by 3. And the consulting room itself is 4 meters, 4 meters by 3.
Okay. So is there like a little waiting room or something? Like, so the other section, is that like an office, or how does it work?
So the little section that we divided is a little bit of a storage room as well as my office. And then our waiting area is actually outside because there's beautiful trees and things outside. Although it's a bit cold now, we've got a nice table and chairs outside.
So what do you do when it rains?
It's a bit tricky. That is a bit of a downfall. Often it depends also on the patient and what the patient needs. So if we do manual therapy, then it's kind of fine because we just pop into the shipping container. But if we need active sessions, it is a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Okay. And otherwise, they could just sit and wait in the car for you, right?
Yeah. You know what? Once or twice on very busy days, I've actually taken a consulting room in the vet as well, which I'm reluctant to do because that's not the idea. But on a busy day or when it's raining, sometimes we use the vet if we really need to.
Oh, that's great to have that to fall back onto. Yeah, it's great. Awesome, Candice. So, I mean, obviously now that you have got your premises and all that, have you made any investments into new equipment?
Yes. So Ramsay Rehab officially will be a year old in September, by the way, the building. So what's happened in that year has already been more than I expected to achieve, which is insane. I'm very, very glad about that. But recently I managed to buy a laser, so we're doing laser therapy now as well. And that was a big investment as well. And then, I've got a few things up my sleeves. So one of the things I'd really like to invest in now is hydrotherapy. But we all know that those underwater treadmills cost quite a bit. So in deciding to do that, up until this point, I've played it very, very safe. I haven't taken any loans or anything, but I'm definitely considering that now because I think an underwater treadmill would be an absolute honor to have.
Yeah, I mean, I must say when I took the jump and got my underwater treadmill, I didn't look back. So I think there's a massive need for it. And it sounds like you're established yourself now. I mean, how many consults are you seeing a day at the moment? Is it increased from your mobile days?
Actually, we're seeing exactly double.
Sure. And so, you also, I know that you also recently hired somebody, but unfortunately, I think that they've moved abroad. But you're looking for another therapist, aren't you?
So I'm working on getting on having an actual team. At the moment, it's myself, and then our cleaning staff, Stella. She's absolutely phenomenal. One thing I realized from being stationary is dog hair is a big problem. So Stella helps me with that problem, which I never actually, I used to have to keep my equipment, but I never used to have to empty the floor, do all the other things. So that's an extra expense if anyone wanted to make a list of things. So it's me, myself and Stella, and then I've got a young girl coming on board. She is going to be a therapist assistant, so just helping us handle the animals, answering the phone, all the things that I don't get to do because I'm consulting. And then I had a therapist on board for a few months, and I was so happy. Unfortunately, she's left now. But ideally, I would like to have a really nice team to work with and to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about having another member, doing similar type of work to you is that you're able to go on holiday. So I know you recently were on holiday, and luckily she was still with you, so she was able to cover for you. But that's one of the challenges, I think, when you first open and you're by yourself. There's loads of things that need to happen. And if you want to have leave or just take a day off or say you're sick, then there's no one to cover for you. So it'll be great to get somebody else on board. I'm so glad you're getting assistant because I can remember in my early days having to answer the telephone and while you were inside the treadmill. So I was in the treadmill and then having to, and you just had to let it ring off, and then you're so worried, that client's never going to phone back again. So how do you manage that at the moment? Are you answering the telephone? Does Stella help you?
So let me tell you about how we work. So Stella comes in really early in the morning at 7 a.m. and then she leaves at like 10 or 11. So she works a half day. And what's really nice is that we open at 9. So she's here at 7 and she preps everything, gets everything ready, so that everything's ready and prepared. So when the first client arrives at 9, we're all sorted. And then, I feel like even that is huge for me, because then everything is sorted. Whereas, for the first like 6 months, I was doing everything from the cleaning to the answering the phone. And now I have actually a recommendation from you, so the 3 musts, and making a list of my daily tasks. And I make sure that I have phone call time. So in the morning, I will be available for talking, and then I won't be available for talking. And then at the end of the day, I'll be available for talking again. And I literally like make it available for talking time. And my clients who are regulars know when my time is to talk. So they don't expect me to answer the phone not in those hours. And that's just from like being open and communicating with them. And like if a client wants to speak to me, then I have to just fit them in that time until we have free-ranged someone to talk to you all the time.
Yeah, listen, it's one of these juggling things. And I think eventually when you get to the size where you're actually able to have someone permanently to answer the telephone, then it's great, and then they're making appointments left, right, and center. Candice, you've got an awesome website, and one of the things I love about your website is you've sort of got this sort of like call to action on your website where people can like request a free telephonic interview, a free telephonic appointment, or basically chat to you to see whether their pet is a candidate for rehabilitation therapy. How does that work for you?
So that's great, because I find that as long as I get people to talk to me, I can convince them why they need rehab. So I just need them to like make the first step, and then I've got it all covered. Because they usually find like people reach out because they actually don't know where to turn. And then once you give them guidance step by step, people like simple things. They like to know, okay, step 1, I have to take my dog. And when you have a plan, so that's something that's really important for a rehab program for me, is that every patient that I rehab has a plan set in motion after the first consult. So,
and you phone these people now, and so they'll fill out the form on your website, and then you give them a call, right? And you have a quick discussion about their pets, and you say, yes, I can help, or no, I can't, and you refer them to somebody who can. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. And in that phone call, I'll say, listen, this is how we go about it, and usually, like, depending on the condition, I can kind of tell what that dog would need, but with explaining that I need to see the dog before we make any final decisions. And that in itself, I think really gets them to follow through.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant, because, if I think about a lot of pet owners, sometimes they actually don't know what we do. So like you'll see loads of websites and they'll be like, laser, these are all the things that we do, and it doesn't mean anything to them, so sometimes they'll look at a website or they'll hear about something, and then they always think, well, will that actually help my pet? And often a lot of the conditions that we're treating, other vets have said, well, there's nothing much more we can do. We often get those cases where we're the end of the line, and so they're thinking, well, my vet could say that there was nothing else we can do. I mean, could this therapist really, really help? And it's just so nice for them to be able to just speak to someone on the phone before they actually make that big step of making the appointments. And I think that you often will find a lot of people will just say, well, no, I'm not even going to do it. That I don't want to waste the money because they probably can't do anything. And at least here they can say, they can hear, yes, I can, or no, I can't. So I think it's brilliant. And I mean, how many calls do you do a week? Is this occupying quite a lot of your time?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mission.
But worth it.
But I find that, yeah, totally worth it. Totally worth it. I'd say like maybe 1 or 2 calls a day at least.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, 1 or 2 calls. I mean, I had one just as we were logging on now. That was a new person as that was ringing before we started. I think, yeah, sometimes the tedious stuff you just have to stick it through, and it's so worthwhile, because then they'll be like, yeah, and this lady, she phoned me back and she cared so much about what I had to say, and you know, and then you have 2 clients.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're getting 1 to 2 a day, that's 1 to 2 potential new clients every day.
I mean, they don't all follow through, but yeah.
Yeah. And then you obviously refer them to other people if you don't think that you can help. Say you think maybe this is a surgical case, or then you refer them on to somebody else.
Yeah, or at the moment I refer for hydrotherapy.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I mean, I can't believe everything that you've achieved over the last, I think it must be a year and a half since we last chatted for the Mobile Clinics podcast. So and it seems like I think we'll probably have to have an update in a year's time. I mean, Ramsay Rehabilitation is 2 years, and we'll hear about the expansions that have happened, and hopefully an underwater treadmill can be added to the list.
Yeah, holding thumbs.
Candice, congratulations on everything you achieved. I'm so proud of you, and thank you so much for giving up your time to chat to me. And good luck with everything, and holding thumbs for that loan to come through for your underwater treadmill.
Yeah, thanks, Megan, and thank you for the podcast and the education, because that's what makes us as successful as we are. So thank you.
Awesome, Candice. Have a wonderful day.
Vet Rehabbers, thanks for listening to my podcast. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, and it would be great if you could leave me a review. I want to know, what are you doing on the 15th to the 17th of November? It is our Vet Rehab Summit, which is our online virtual conference for veterinary rehab professionals. Find out more information at onlinepethealth.com.